Podcasts, the final frontier. These are the voyages of the podcast.
There are 4 lights!
Its 5-year mission to explore strange, familiar worlds, to seek out new listeners and new civilizations, to boldly go where most nerds have gone before. Join Matt and Shirley on their 5-year mission with a different guest each week as they talk about an episode of Star Trek, from the original series through Enterprise. They'll cover every episode, eventually.
Hi everybody, and welcome back to There Are 4 Lights. I'm Matt, and I'm here with Shirley.
Hello.
And this week we're joined once again by Matthew Peterson of the Major Spoilers Network, right?
Yes, like 40% of it. much of the Major Spoilers Network will have me in there to everyone's chagrin, it seems.
So which 40% is that?
Well, of course, our flagship show, the Major Spoilers Podcast, comes out once a week. We have Critical Hit, our live play Dungeons & Dragons podcast. Actually, not just D&D now. We do other games. I'm also on Top 5. I make occasional appearances on our movie show, Zach on Film. Stephen and I do a show called Dueling Review, where we go in-depth on one comic every week. And then, of course, there's many, many other shows that I'm not part of, but I don't remember them. No, that's not true either. But yes, we have a whole lot of stuff at majorspoilers.com. In fact, if you really want to be cool, people have special podcasts that they only get if they're a very important patron, one of our VIPs at Major Spoilers. So, you know.
Oh.
You can hear me talk about
podcast.
The Flash every week, yeah.
Yeah.
I do.
Nice.
That's a good one. And then you guys, actually on the Top 5, you guys did your Top 5 Star Trek episodes with Ashley B. Robinson and Jason Inman. They came on for that. That was a great episode from back September last year.
I think so, yeah. That was a fun one because, of course, if you ask me my favorite 5 episodes of Star Trek, it's going to be different every time. It's really going to depend on what I've seen last and what I remember. And then, of course, that one episode where Cisco talks to the camera for an hour is good, too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, great. So you have a little bit of experience podcasting under your belt, just a tiny smidge.
No, I have no idea what I'm doing. I might.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Ah!
Yeah. So this week we're going to be talking about the original series episode, Devil in the Dark, which is a fantastic episode. I was very happy.
Episode 26, I believe.
Yeah, that's absolutely
what
right.
the book says.
Yeah.
What does Netflix say?
Netflix said 26. I'm going to check.
What does the
I think
Trekopedia say?
Everything else said.
I never remember what that's called.
It's according to IMDb. It's episode 25, so you know it's wrong.
Yep.
Memory,
but
by the way, I think it's the Trekopedia.
Oh, Memory Alpha.
Yep. Memory Alpha says episode 26. So 26.
Cool.
Matthew was right. Netflix is actually right.
Yeah, don't ever argue with me and or Netflix.
So does that mean it's production episode 26, or is it production episode 25?
It says it's production episode 26, also release number 26. I don't know.
Nice. So we're kind of on track now.
Yeah.
I feel like we caught up.
We talk about this a little bit each week, because this first season was filmed and released in a very weird order.
Yes.
And then there was the Menagerie, which
throws everything into it. That may be it. Did the Menagerie air before Devil in the Dark?
Yes.
They may be counting the Menagerie as one episode to get that count of 25.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, and it was such a weird release because we gained and lost crew on and off. Mm-hmm. Even in this one, we don't see the whole crew again. So
yeah.
Shirley, why don't you go ahead and give us the rundown from your book, and we'll go ahead and get started from there.
All right. So, a distress call from a mining station on an ore-rich planet leads the Enterprise crew to an encounter with a space creature who has been thwarting delivery of critical needed metals in The Devil in the Dark. Why do I do that every single time?
I don't know. You do that every time. I like it, though. It's good.
Dark Devil.
The Devil in the Dark. He's
that
the
could
devil.
Oh, that could be a song. Oh, okay, never mind.
Yeah, I think it was an NXS song. Devil in the Dark. Devil in the Dark. No? Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm curious
so
too.
Captain Kirk and Mr. Spock join Chief Engineer Vandenberg, who was played by Ken Leach, of the planet outpost Janus 64556. I don't know my Roman numerals.
VI6.
VI656. In a desperate attempt to stem the harassment of their important mining operation by Horta, a strange and apparently indestructible life form. While tracking Horta through a maze of subterranean shafts, the men are isolated during a cave-in, and Kirk finds himself face-to-face with the creature.
So, are you done? I'm sorry. You're still
that was basically
and
it.
if I had a nickel for every time somebody said that.
She usually closes her book when she's done, and she was still looking at it. I realized I interjected.
Well, the thing is, like, I have these are the Voyages TOS written by Mark Cushman.
Mm-hmm.
So, and this is one of the episodes that was truly, truly interesting that I actually wanted to read about in the book, because most of them, just have there wasn't very many interesting facts in the book to me.
Yeah,
but this one,
it's a lot of production notes, and this thing happened on this day, and it was weird. It's not as, it's very dry, but this one, she was saying, was a lot more in depth and a lot more colorful and enjoyable. But the first thing that I think is most important to talk about here is we get a lineup of death.
Right?
Because they just bring those red shirts out, and he just walks down that line, and all I could think was, all those guys are dead.
Yep.
Every last one of them. They're not making it off the planet.
That's actually what my child said. She's like, wow, 9 guys, and they're all going to die. Not to mention awesome. the Janus 6 personnel who get eaten. There's a really high body count this time around.
Hold on, how old is she?
12.
She's 12? Mm-hmm. We should have her on the show.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Oh, my gosh, that would be amazing.
This actually, surprisingly, most of those red shirts live. Only one of them dies. He doesn't get a name. A man has no name.
A man has no name.
He forgot the face of his father. Yes.
But we did get the red shirt death that I'm always hoping for. But unfortunately, that lineup was just... It's like a scene of things to come.
Right.
Men that will die eventually.
You're like, oh, who's gonna die? Now, what I want to know is, were any of those red shirts ever seen again from this episode? Because
they have such a weird rotation of extras in this series. I don't know.
There's actually one guy who shows up after he dies.
Yeah, that sounds about right, yeah.
I've noticed that several times within the Star Trek.
Yeah, I think it's Lieutenant Leslie. Universe. He's named at one point as Lieutenant Leslie, and then he dies. And then the actor comes back, and I'm just like, oh, it's the ghost of Leslie.
Leslie.
Yeah, there's a website that I found, Scientisha? I don't know. But it talks about, it shows every death by episode, and it mentions that it's hard to count deaths because some people die and come back, or die and then die again. Right, so there's a lot of reuse of potentially unknown stars, but it's very different.
I'm going to have to look out for Leslie. Has he already died?
I can't remember. I know he was in... He was in Where No Man Has Gone Before. He was in the second pilot. And I think he's in one of the Harry Mudd episodes. I think somebody said at one point that Lieutenant Leslie, if you count all the appearances of the actor, has appeared in more episodes than either George Takei or Chekhov, whose name is
for real.
Walter Koenig, yes.
Yeah.
But then Walter Koenig didn't show up until season 2 either, so
Right.
Hi, I'm a nerd.
And George Takei is on and off in this season too. Mm-hmm. He and James Doohan, and a little bit of what's her name?
Nichelle Nichols.
Oh, yeah. All three of them are kind of on and off on this. The only ones we really almost always see are Spock, McCoy, and Kirk.
Interesting.
And Kirk, his speech. We always see his speech pattern.
Mm-hmm. Nichelle Nichols, I did not see her in this episode, and it reminded me of something that I didn't realize at first until we were about halfway through it. There are, like, no women who have any speaking parts in this episode. You see, like, a captain's ensign in a mini-skirt at one point, but there are literally no women anywhere in this script, except for that one, who's made of rock. But,
yeah.
Sorry, that's a spoiler.
Well, even then, and Shirley, you said you read something in the book about the Horda and how it came about.
Oh, so the interesting thing that I read is that the Horda, they actually didn't they didn't write the script and then come up with the monster. They actually, the gentleman who did, what's his name? Oh, hold on. Janos
Prohaska.
Yeah, Janos Prohaska. Thank you, Matthew. Mm-hmm. He actually went to. You probably know the story if you know how to pronounce his name, but went to Roddenberry and said, "Hey, if I ever make a really cool monster that you like, will you, have him in one of your episodes?" Mm-hmm. And so he came up with the Horda and he showed it to Roddenberry and Kuhn, who was a writer for the story, and then Kuhn he saw it and then sat down, and in 4 days they had the episode written for it.
Yeah. Which is pretty amazing when you think about it.
Right.
But when the Horda is moving in this episode, you have to think there's a man under that. And I spent time trying to figure out, when I first found out, that was a guy in a suit, how is he doing it? Is he on his hands and knees, or is he like crouched like a cat? It's fascinating to watch that creature move, and you can complain about like the occasional wobbliness of Star Trek effects and things that don't really keep 50 years later. But the Horda really still works for me in a practical effects kind of way, and I really, really appreciate the amount of work that had to go into, poor Janos Prohaska walking like that for however long. So you feel
right.
And I realized that there was a guy under there. It's obvious that they're doing something there, but it's made in such a way that you're like, wow, that is weird and alien, and what is it? What exactly, like, it's the first alien that I've ever felt is
freaky alien.
Freaky, yeah, that's a really good word for it. And Shirley was mentioning this is our first really non-humanoid alien.
Yeah, this is the first non-humanoid alien in the...
I mean, we had the Squire Gothos, who technically was non-humanoid. He was some sort of energy being, but
he appeared as a human.
He showed up as humanoid, and then Baylock was some sort of creepy man-child. Such a wonderful creepy man-child.
a creepy creature from the planet Clint Howard.
Yeah, absolutely. But this is our first real non-humanoid alien that is very different from what we would expect. So I was very happy with that.
So did you do a lot of research on the episode, Matthew?
Yes and no. I dug out my copy of the Nitpicker's Guide to the original series, and I went through it.
Oh, nice.
But when it comes to old series episodes, I've read enough in the past, and I've seen them enough times to where I watched it once when we had originally scheduled this, because I don't know if you guys listening at home know this, but I'm terrible to work with for scheduling. This is like our 9th try or something. But I watched it a couple of weeks ago, and it really, really held up for me. And I think the best part about the episode for me was the fact that because the Horda was so alien, it really, really gave that Starfleet message of we accept and try to understand even the freakiest alien freakies. It gave it that much more heft. Because when Kirk is saying, well, this friend of mine who basically just looks like a guy from Malibu with pointy ears is an alien, that's one thing. That works thematically and narratively. But when you're looking at, something that looks like scrambled eggs made of steel, and you're saying this is a thinking creature who's trying to communicate with us, that's a whole new deal. I think that's one of the things that makes this episode stick out so much, especially in season 1.
And it shows it shows the Spock, McCoy, Kirk triangle of whatever they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that they work well together. They each have their own specialty. They each do their own thing.
Mm-hmm.
We get to see Scotty being a jury rigger, and he just will figure out whatever he has to get it to work. It really highlights the three of them and their characters. McCoy decides that he's going to, spackle the thing to heal it, which I think is a great idea.
And what did we get out of that?
What?
Oh, we can talk about that later.
Yeah, we finally got something out of that. We'll get to that in a little bit, but we do get to see the three characters act in a way that Kirk is all kinds of reckless in this, and he's just charging forward, and that's Kirk. But he does it for the betterment of the people around him, and really leads in this episode. I was very happy with that. Yeah. This is, in a lot of ways, this is like the most solid we've seen Star Trek so far. Like, the script was solid. There's not any huge eye-rolling moments in the script. The creature is well done. The story doesn't fall apart at some point, and you have to suspend a lot of disbelief.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And even the part that feels, for me, the most difficult part to defend is Spock saying, "Captain, kill it now." But if you take that from the perspective of not just the first officer trying to protect the captain, but also Spock trying to protect his friend, it still feels like an extreme reaction from Spock, but it's one of those Spock moments where a little bit of emotion slips through, and if you read it as Spock getting emotional and not really thinking about the fact that he's getting emotional during that, it really works as a Star Trek moment. People have said to me that feels out of character. To me, it feels like it's an extraordinary moment that forces him out of character and forces him to react in a way that even he doesn't expect, and I really like that part.
Yeah.
I hadn't thought of it like that, and now that you mention it in that way, definitely, because I was like, oh, that just seemed like a very bad part for him. He's not acting like he usually does.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But reacting to that human side of himself, in regards to, his friend and his crew.
Well, he is only half Vulcanian.
Oh my gosh, Vulcanian. That just cracks me up every time I hear it.
On the Adriatic. Yeah.
So the silicon nodules, which were clearly spray painted balls, but still very, like, they were effective. Like, they handled them well. Like, the I don't know, just everything here felt like it fell into place in the right way. So
it
I was
felt
very
like
happy
they
with that.
made the most of some very simple things, and even those moments where Spock was holding the nodule, and you look at that and go, "That's totally full of air, you guys." He handles it in such a way that it doesn't give away that it's a little rubber ball. And the moments where the Horta is burning through the stone, and we have the visual effect to do that stone burn through, it doesn't come across as really, really obvious. Although some of the guys on the planet side felt a little bit too much like they were out of an episode of Mannix for me, but even that, they're minors. They live under...
Yeah.
Right.
It's a little bit of the backwoods. These are the good old boys that are down in the
right.
mine. So, that one... Well, and it also killed... What, 30 of their friends or something
30
ridiculous?
Or... It wasn't...
Well...
It might have been as many as 50, because I remember him saying...
I thought it said...
Yeah.
I thought he said 52.
The opening of this episode is interesting, too, because it's all miners on the set up to the Shatner narration. The Shat narration, as...
The Shat narration.
Yeah, absolutely. And
it's all, and then you cut, and it's like Star Trek. I'm like, oh, crap.
It is a very modern, like, Law and Order kind of take on things.
Right? Yeah.
Which not a bad thing. I don't have a problem when Law and Order does it. I like that quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it sets us up for kind of an understanding of how the mining colony is going and how terrifying this is, because the guy doesn't want to stay down there for a couple of minutes, let alone...
Right.
Yeah, and Kuhn, I mean, I don't know what the book that you read about, but Kuhn said in the book that I'm reading by Mark Cushman, he went on to say that Kuhn pointed out that, there are all these plot holes, basically. Like, okay, 30, 40 men have died. Why are you putting one single man down there still?
Right.
Why aren't you pairing them up in teams? And then you have this, the Horta, it looks like it's scuttling on the ground. How does it make such a large opening?
And why is the opening perfectly circular when the creature is
right.
kind of ovoid? I imagine that it actually rotates, like a drill bit. And I imagine this because there's no way they could show it. Yeah. But I just love the image of the creature going... I think that would be cool.
Zerberts? That's awesome.
Exactly. The power of Zerbert.
Yeah.
It's actually Zerbert 6. Zerbert 5 exploded.
Right?
Oh.
This is why I love having him on.
Yeah. Matthew is a fountain of knowledge and ridiculous things that he says. Yeah. And that's why we love him.
Sometimes knowledge is itself ridiculous.
At times, yeah. So this episode, I don't know. I just was very, very happy with it. I want to move on to something that's very important because it's our first. And we finally get McCoy saying, I'm a doctor.
Yes.
Not a bricklayer. And I've been waiting 26 episodes for this. I knew it was coming.
That's 26 hours or almost 16 years.
Kind of feels like that sometimes too, yeah.
The best part of that is the Shatner response, because it's 100% pure Kirk. You're a healer, there's a patient. And you're just like, yes, lead that ship. You make that mean old man fix the patient. Why?
Isn't McCoy like this curmudgeonly mean old man, though? You're right.
And I think that's by design. He is older than the rest of the main crew. Although he's not as old as he would have been if they kept the original actor from The Cage, who I like anyway. But yeah, I think his job is to provide the fatherly wisdom and be a little bit of a curmudgeon. Whereas you have that thing where Kirk will leap out into danger and pretty much fight and or kiss anything. Depending, I'm not saying he made out with a Horta. I'm just saying at some point he turned around pretty quickly on whether or not it was a good thing, is all.
Yeah, he was. She was the last Horta on that planet ever.
That's right.
Ever. So.
Wow. So solid episode. Mm-hmm. We touched on finally McCoy said something. Let's talk about the actors. We've got a good group here. Obviously, Janosch was the Horta. He was known for a lot of that kind of...
He was known for a lot of mostly animal... I'm going to say not prosthetics. What is it called?
Well, some of it is prosthetic.
Yeah.
It's costuming. He was also the Mugato, or will be the Mugato. I don't remember when the Mugato appears.
Will be, yeah.
Trek, yeah.
Will be, yeah.
Anytime you saw a gorilla on Gilligan's Island,
that
was Janosch.
That was him. He did a lot of that. He was in the series The Riverboat, where he was in the traveling circus, so he did a lot of the animal costumes. They needed a bear, he would do a bear. If they needed something else, he'd do something else. And then once all of the monster movies started hitting, he was starting to get into doing the monster outfits.
Mm-hmm.
Prosthetics.
We get Eddie Paskey, who plays Lieutenant Leslie in this episode. Also played Lieutenant Ryan, a crewman, Connors, another crewman.
They're all the same guy.
Yeah, he eventually comes back. He did several episodes, like 68 episodes.
58 episodes.
Which is just ridiculous. He even, he was even technically in DS9 as part of the old footage from The Trouble with Tribbles during the trial.
That's actually how he gets so many episodes. He's in one of the establishing shots of the bridge, where it's a season 1 establishing shot without Chekhov, and many times, even after Chekhov is on the bridge, they'll start with the establishing shot that shows Lieutenant Leslie, and then they'll cut to the footage made for the episode, and then it'll be Sulo and Chekhov up there. But if you count Paskey's appearances, some of them be a stock footage.
Yeah.
He's in like tons and tons of episodes. It's one of those things where you're just like, yes, Chekhov can turn into another guy. That's a power.
Yeah, absolutely. He is in quite a few episodes, so he's well known that way.
Mm-hmm.
We do have some other actors that are not popping up as someone I can really look into, but we did have a group here. We had the doctor, the leader of the group there on the planet,
Vanderberg.
Vanderberg.
Yeah. But overall, it was he was played by Ken Lynch.
Mm-hmm. From McCloud.
Yes.
Oh, are you kidding me?
Yeah, he was.
I love the
sergeant guy on McCloud.
Yeah.
Dennis Weaver walking around.
Lots and lots of just with Ken Lynch, we're seeing a lot. I see a lot of the same thing we see with a lot of actors in this time. Is that they move from show to show as part-time actors or as a one-off, which they do just fine. I like that. We get to see the same people over and over again.
Sometimes
the same people playing different characters in the same show. Several episodes apart, which is also wonderful.
So I'm just wondering, did they do that because they knew he was good on the set and he was reliable, or
he may have been a studio actor?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing they did, even up through this time, was he belonged to the studio. He had a contract with them. He would do so many things.
Right.
And if they put him on a show, they put him on a show. It was still money that he was getting paid.
Oh.
And I know that the obvious example for me is always the one with the thing in the face, and it's got the four cowboys, and they're on the Bonanza.
Bonanza.
Yes.
Bonanza was on for 20 years, and Bonanza had actors that they knew and they liked, and they knew that you could get a good performance out of them. So you would have these people come back, and they'd come back around and play a completely different character, or play the same character with a different name. And it was the fact that the 60s, there was no such thing as videotape recorders in your house, so people wouldn't have the level of scrutiny that we have to say, oh my God, that guy Wei-Yun is the same guy who played Brunt, you guys.
Yeah.
Right.
But then there's also the fact that television was meant to be disposable. So sometimes you'd get an actor in because you wanted to have this actor, you wanted to get your friend a job, or, this guy does this kind of role. And by the way, this Prohaska guy can do an incredible gorilla. You had that studio system, and you had people who would just show up everywhere and do their thing. So,
yeah, it
Up
was
with a tablecloth. He can be an alien.
yeah, a bumpy tablecloth at least. You got to get the bumps in there to make it look right. So yeah, I mean, I've been very happy with this rotating cast. I kind of want to go watch other episodes that they're in, but a lot of them are that kind of chiseled jaw 60s actor that kind of fade into each other pretty easily.
That dad guy from the house down the street.
Yeah.
They can play a cowboy, and then they can show up and be in a detective show, and then somehow they're across the street in Ozzie and Harriet.
Yeah.
Aww.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean that's the perfect kind of actor you want for those kind of things. We talked about the Horta because they're kind of all over this. Is there anything else that's... Oh, the other thing that stuck out, because I was going to ask what else stuck out to you guys.
What?
This really draws a very solid line between civilians and military having weaponry. Because none of the miners really had anything. They were getting Type 2 phasers from the Enterprise crew.
Right.
And they were
had
military
clubs.
weapons.
Yep.
And that to me is a strong delineation that we don't see later in other shows.
This is actually the first time that they differentiate between the props. The Phaser 1 and Phaser 2 discussion was fascinating to me because I don't remember seeing it when I was younger. And I honestly never really noticed too much of a difference between that pistol phaser and the matchbox phaser. But this is really the episode, just that one-off conversation. I really think that has shaped all of the discussion that we see. If you go to Memory Alpha and look for Type 2 phaser, I bet you there's a long explanation of this is that and this is not. I have my little phaser prop that has the Type 1 that you plug into the top of the Type 2.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And you're just, I don't know. It's just one of those fascinating moments where based on maybe a paragraph here and the fact that the guys in the prop room at Desilu Productions came up with a new thing that looked like a gun, we actually have this huge amount of data and this huge backstory just based on a couple of lines in this episode. They only have Phaser 1. We have Phaser 2. Phaser 2 has 16 settings. That's 32 phasers. Aha!
Right?
Right. And you have to ask yourself, was that intentional to explain the prop? Or was that, Gene, we need another 5 minutes out of this episode?
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm hoping it's the prop.
Yeah,
it adds to the backstory.
I think it's the prop. I think that occasionally we get good attention to detail in the original series.
Nice.
And sometimes not so much, Lieutenant Leslie being a big part of that. But
it's a ghost, you guys. It's a ghost of Lieutenant Leslie. Ooh.
That's what we should do. We should put that in our things that we see every episode.
The ghost of Lieutenant Leslie.
Ghost of
okay, I'll mark that down.
The Phantom Leslie sighting.
So overall, the episode is pretty good. Let's get into our
How come we never hit the political issues on episodes?
Oh, go ahead. You can talk about
No, I'm just wondering because we never do.
Because because the political issues of the time are not the same as today, and I don't necessarily want to touch on things that I don't understand about then that I'm not very well schooled on.
Okay.
I mean, because there's a lot of, we do talk about the civil rights movement, especially Uhura being on the ship and on the bridge and important and all that, both as a woman and
I feel like with this being Pride Month and it having to do with civil rights, like this episode kind of like...
I get what you're saying, but the 60s were a really weird time because this Star Trek is not in any way, shape, or form considered sexist at the time. It's considered groundbreaking.
Yeah.
But
because there's women in space.
But if Kirk patted one of the yeomen on the butt, they would have thought it was perfectly okay and right in place. And so...
Yeah. But that part of that is the thing, when you get to Let There Be Your Last Battlefield, where the metaphor is the people who are half white and half black, and they're actually painted so. That is amazing. No one had ever had that discussion, and we can look at that 50 years on and go, that is the most ham-fisted metaphor I've ever seen. But it's a metaphor, and it's the first time they tried any metaphor. So, it's one of those things where, yes, you have to accept that the miniskirt uniforms and the boot uniforms were not the best way to represent women in space, unless you're representing, hey, these are really hot women in space. But the fact that they're there, and that they tried to get number one in there, and that they tried to give Uhura and Chapel meaningful roles, that's gotta stand for something. That's that progressive, that small step progression that you don't always think about until it's way, it's way past that point. And then you go, oh my God. The first time this ever happened was an episode of Star Trek in 1967.
Yeah. And we do get to see the men in the miniskirts in Next Generation.
And they
I think that's
a little weird is all I'm saying.
They do look a little weird, but...
the skirt needs to be either a little longer or a little shorter on those guys, because... Seriously, either way will work. The length that they have it in the Season 1 scants just don't work.
Yeah, no, it doesn't. All right, so recurring items. Can I touch on those now?
Sure. Oh, go ahead.
Well, that was mostly for Shirley because she stopped me last time.
He's poking me. You can't see it.
We get the
poking me in the arm.
Bones saying, "I'm a doctor, not a bricklayer," which is great. He doesn't pronounce anybody dead.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he almost does.
Yeah,
he goes up to that guy that's fried.
Yeah, there was
injured,
a very
Jim.
Yeah. Kirk questionably gets the lady. I mean, the Hoarder's a lady, and everything ends well that way.
No.
I like Matthew's theory on this.
What do you think he's defending her honor?
Off-panel kissing.
Off-panel, yeah.
Honestly, with the message of this episode, as much as part of me wants to, I think that it kind of dilutes the message to imply that, because Kirk as a ladies' man, that's a fun thing to play with, but this is Kirk as a leader and Kirk as a diplomat, and Kirk, taking control of the situation to keep a unique life form from getting murdered, basically.
Well, and Kirk is a defender too.
From genocide.
of the things you could call Kirk, like he defends people very readily.
Right.
He's ready to fight a room full of miners to protect this creature that he doesn't even know what it is.
Yeah. We do get a red shirt death. That was fantastic.
And afterwards, we get that red shirt outline. Help me! Oh,
yeah. And then
Spock was being really illogical.
We get to see Spock break his logic and go
be emotional,
full emotion, which is that's still good.
Kill it with sticks.
And then Uhura isn't in the episode, so I guess she does something else besides answer the phone.
Does mind meld count as a recurring thing?
We haven't put that on the list. We probably should, because this is the third time that we've really seen a solid one.
Yeah.
This is kind of a definitive mind mold for me.
Yeah, unlike the mind meld from Taste of Armageddon, where he does it through the door.
Right.
That
Feels
was terrible.
the wall. I was like, that's
not how that works. That's not how that works.
No, you're doing it wrong.
The mind meld actually has a really great moment in a great story that I actually read in Shatner's autobiography. Bill Shatner's dad died during the making of this episode.
Yeah, we read that.
And he was not present for the scenes where Spock was doing the mind meld. And you can kind of tell there's some pretty obvious shots of his stand-in from the back in this episode. So he came back from his father's funeral, and they're finishing the thing. And he's like, okay, what are we doing? And Leonard is like, well, I kind of stood over there and went, pain. And he's like, no, you have to do it. So Spock went through the whole thing, and he was like, pain. And reputedly, Shatner was like, damn it, Bones, get that Vulcan an aspirin. And he did this specifically to break the tension with the crew and his friends, so that they would know that he was going to be okay and that he could finish the episode. But it was one of those moments where you're just like, oh, that's such a great story. I wish it was in the episode.
Yeah, Shatner says that this is one of his favorite episodes because he felt close. This helped him feel close to the crew as they helped him get past what had happened with his father. So that's kind of awesome. I like that as well. So overall, Shirley, out of 5, where do you kind of rank this?
Oh, this is definitely a 5 for me.
Okay.
This would be a 5 for me.
It's a solid episode. Everybody that likes Star Trek should at least give it a check it out and see what they think.
I feel that way, yes.
Excellent. What about you, Matthew? What do you think?
In my estimation, this is probably my favorite episode of Season 1, arguably the best episode of Season 1. Definitely a top 10 episode all around, maybe even top 5, because this is that's not a plug for my show either. But no, this be quiet now. No, this is an episode that really gives you kind of a crystallized view. This is that 10,000-foot view of the Star Trek universe. You watch this, and you'll have a good idea of what the show and its main basic recurring characters are here to do. You know, you said it. You get Kirk being the leader, Spock being the logician. You get Spock being the magic alien. You get McCoy being clever and irascible and occasionally mean. You get Scotty building something out of what seems to be, I don't know, a vacuum and 3 balls of bubble gum.
Yeah.
And it all comes together, and what it really breaks down is and my friend asked me when we were watching this, didn't they just break the Prime Directive because they helped the alien? I'm like, no, they've actually, in this case, supported the Prime Directive, which may not even exist at this point in their production. But they have protected this intelligent alien that could have been nothing more than a monster. They protected it. They defended it. They basically made it possible for this alien to coexist with the Federation to the betterment of both the human colonists and the Horta and her Horta babies. So Horta Babies, by the way, was an excellent cartoon in the 80s.
Oh, really?
It was great.
Horta Babies, they'll drill
and stuff.
stuff.
I'll have to go find that.
Yeah, go
the Prime And the
was
Prime
such a...
Directive, was mentioned for the first time, 2 or 3 episodes ago?
Yeah.
It was...
I can't remember.
But it was very weird.
Yeah.
It very not described at all.
Yeah, they just kind of referenced it, and that was it.
Looking at the future in Star Trek, the Horta do join the Federation by 2380, just so we're aware. That's Memory Alpha let me know that.
Depending on what you're reading, at one point, I believe in the comics, there was a Horta ensign on board the Enterprise A. Yeah.
Which is very
That's
interesting.
Kind of makes you
amazing.
wonder where she wears the logo. Just glue it on the back or spray paint it.
Yeah. Yeah. Just putty it on there.
Yeah.
Whatever works.
Oh my gosh, you guys. This is so
all right,
horrible.
so for me, I guess this is a 5 out of 5 Type 2 phasers.
No.
So we're going to give it actually 10. It's 5 out of 5 Type 2 phasers.
10 Type 2
5 out of-
phasers.
Yeah.
Oh my.
So I think this is one of the best episodes we've seen so far.
Yeah.
I think this ranks above a lot of what I remember from The Next Generation, which I haven't rewatched in a while.
Yeah.
Quite a bit of it. There's a couple episodes of Next Generation that really stick out. But this is still really good Star Trek, and I think if you haven't watched any of the original series and want to get a feel for those 3 iconic characters, and then Scotty doing Scotty things, this is the way to go.
Yeah. And in a lot of ways, it's easy to look at, all of the old series and only see the parts that are, primitive or dated or don't necessarily age well. But I think this is an episode that across the board, allowing for some variance in maybe, the effects and some of the stand-in sequences, you can look at this, and I think it would stand with any of the modern Trek because it deals with a really complex issue, and it does it in a way that makes sense, that makes narrative sense, and also strengthens the characters as we know them. And then we have that moment where, Spock is mentally communicating with the strange creature under the tablecloth, and McCoy speckles it up together. I thought that was, all the way around, this is a very strong episode. Yeah,
absolutely. Matthew, where can we find you on the social medias?
On the Twiddlecator, I am at Mighty King Cobra, spelled exactly like it sounds. Same place on the Tumblr, although I don't know how to tumble.
I don't know how to tumble either.
Yeah. I exist on
there with you.
Facebook, but I'm no fun there, so I don't encourage you to seek me out. And you can always find me at www.majorspoilers.com. 5 nights a week, sometimes 7. One time 8. We're not sure how that happened.
Because there's 8 days a week.
No?
8 days a week, yeah.
8 days a week.
Oh.
Does anybody know that song?
Yeah, we watched Hard Day's Night.
Yes.
Yeah, we watched Hard Day's Night.
I was afraid that no
podcast.
one got the reference.
No, we got it. We got it. Don't worry.
That's why I'm here. People at home,
it's the
you could have made,
dude, it's cool. Yeah, you could have made a very obscure reference, and Matthew would have followed right along.
That is kind of my wheelhouse, Yeah.
Well, Matthew, thank you for being on.
Thank you for being patient with my non-showing up.
Scheduling is always a fun situation.
Well, you have a what is that? What's that when they get off the hook for being naughty?
Oh, I have a hall pass. I don't know.
Yes, you know what that hall pass is?
No.
Torque.
Yeah, Torque lets you get away with a lot in Shirley's mind.
Space, the final frontier.
Oh.
These here is some voyages of a starship or something or other, and it's got them people on it, and then it goes whoosh, and then I watch the rest of the credits trying to duck it because it keeps going whoosh right at my face.
Oh.
The end.
You have just made her entire week. Well, thank you very much for that.
Seriously.
Yeah, check out Matthew on all the podcasts. Top 5 is geeky, but it's definitely not in any one thing. And I really like it. I think it's a good one to start at.
In any one thing?
Well, it's not comic books. I mean, Major Spoilers is very comic book.
Got it.
Stuck, and that's what they do there.
It's not a comic podcast or a music podcast or a movie podcast, but it's usually all of those things.
Mm-hmm.
And the weirder the topic, the more fun it is for me.
Yeah, It's also the one that where you really get to know the hosts, and understand that Matthew a little bit deeper when he tells you that his favorite kind of cookie is a cannoli.
Oh, that's a good cookie. That's a good cookie. You also, if you go listen to Top 5 Nightmares, you'll hear way too much of my up.
Oh no, we did. Did we listen to that one,
we listened
or was
to that.
it a Halloween one?
We listened to that on a car ride, and it was terrifying.
At night.
And we went to Mexico recently, and every time we went anywhere near trees, all I could think of was Rodrigo talking about jaguars.
Jaguars in the trees.
Yeah, it was a good episode, it was a good trip, but jaguars. Thanks, Rodrigo. All right, well, thank you for being on, listeners at home. Thank you for listening. We will talk to you guys all real soon.
And that'll do us tonight for
There Are 4 Lights.
Remember, you can email us at thereare4lightspodcast@gmail.com or find us on Facebook at facebook.com/nerdsdomain, on Twitter at nerdsdomain, or over at our site, nerdsdom.com. Be sure to sign up for the newsletter while you're there. You can head over to iTunes and give us a 5-star rating. A big thanks to 5 Year Mission for their music. You can find them at 5yearmission.net. Don't forget you can support us at patreon.com/nerdsdomain. And check out our shirts at /loot.